Hmm. Hmm. The unspoken war. Sudan. The unspoken war. Yes. Yes. Hmm. So that's interesting.
With bonus drop discount, it's free to play. Drop a disc to start building your Friday boot.
In Sudan. I'm talking about we see blood stains from space that are blocks long. Whatever's happening there was so egregious. I mean, think about that. You got blood that you can see from satellite. And of all the conflicts in the world that deserve our attention, rightfully so, human suffering is a tragedy, especially on the scale that's been happening on a lot of African stuff gets swept under the rug. And it turns out that the more and more they tried to deny it, the more and more the evidence started piling up that the RSF in Sudan was being funded by the United Arab Emirates, that they were creating the supply lines necessary to do this horrific genocide in Sudan that was literally just taking folks out left and right. That is until the war in Iran. That is
Yes,
until they started getting struck them darn selves. That is until these Iranian missiles started falling from the sky. Man, that that missile game, Iran got woo. That missile game ain't nothing to play with because they had gamed us out. And one of the things that Iran knew, I gotta say it right. One of the things that Iran knew was that they were going to strike the United States' collaborators in the region. And man, did they start doing that. Hitting bases, desalination plants, oil refineries. All of a sudden, United Arab Emirates, they got their own fish to fry. They got their own problems to solve. They got their own fires literally to put out. And they can no longer fund the RSF. And because of them, can no longer the Sudanese army is back land and resources and territory on behalf of the Sudanese people. This Iran war then had a weird knock on effect that affects the continent of Africa. Check out what the Cradle has to say about this one. Iran's retaliatory strikes on Israel and the UAE are contributing to a quick collapse of the Rapid Support Forces, RSF, a UAE backed paramilitary group fighting in Sudan's civil war, the Canary reported on the 13th of March. But the UAE and Israel are seeing their supply lines to the RSF disrupted amid Iranian missile and drone strikes since the start of the US Israel war on the Islamic Republic starting on February 28th. So, how do we know this? Well, it says, according to the Canary, the RSF had been making strong gains until February. However, the Sudanese government forces have achieved a string of military victories that appear to be turning into a rout. The Sudanese army is successfully targeting RSF arms and supply depots and cutting off frontline RSF troops from the ammunition, fuel, and supplies needed to fight. And see, here's what's so interesting about this to me. For the longest time, there was reporting that said, oh, the United Arab Emirates has nothing to do with what's going on in Sudan right now. These are just rumors. These are people who are just trying to demonize the United Arab Emirates. Come to Dubai, have a good time, right? But now it's starting to look like, okay, so this is a convenient coincidence. Just when y'all supply chain gets interrupted, just when y'all's economy gets interrupted, just when Iran is hitting y'all with missiles and drones that you got to put out all these fires, just when the supply chain gets broken, Sudan starts taking back land, starts fighting back on behalf of their people, starts taking real dubs on the battlefield. Seems a mighty bit convenient to me that these things are happening at the same time, but they wasn't connected in the first place, right? We know for a fact that the United Arab Emirates has taken severe damage and is borderline in shambles right now. You gotta understand. If you're living next to Iran right now and you're allied with the United States, boy, the incentives that are there to keep you aligned with the United States is just falling apart left and right. So here's the reporting on exactly what the damage has been to the United Arab Emirates economy. Check this out. The Iran war has shaken Dubai's status as a global wealth hub as legions of expatriates scramble to escape and family offices and wealth managers reconsider their Middle East footprint, right? So now you messing with their money. You got family offices, you got Westerners like, man, we got to get up out of here, right? We ain't built like that. If you from the West, you ain't built like them over there. You know what I'm saying? People in the Middle East, people in Africa, ooh, they be going through it, right? Those of us who went to Dubai just because we wanted something plush, we ain't ready for these missiles to start falling like that. There's Westerners that are like making TikToks like, man, I can't even get a flight out of here, right? There's people who are like, yeah, the Brits are getting flights, but not Americans. They are pulling the plug left and right because they know that it's too crazy and the money is leaving. And when the money leaves there, the supply chain gets cut off to the RSF and Sudan. It's all connected, y'all. This is a world war, right? There at any moment, China can move on Taiwan, right? At any moment, things could shift over in the European Union in their relationship with Russia. You just never know. But what we do know is that in a global economy, nobody remains in touch. Listen, I seen gas spike up so high, literally just in one tank filling. You see what I'm saying, right? We ain't even getting into the Strait of Hormuz right now. We ain't even getting into what everything that travels via gasoline, whether it's jet fuel, whether it's via trucks, is going to be more expensive, right? Somehow the system always passes on the expenses to the consumer. So you know that this is going to affect you, at least in that realm, right? But Africa is in a different position because of how the imperial aspirations of even the Arab world are showing up in Africa right now. So these things are just one of those real key reminders, right? That like the fate of African people be mad similar, no matter where you go, right? Always somebody trying to exploit, colonize, extract. Always somebody who sees their ambitions happening at the African people's expense. And so when those ambitions get interrupted, we somehow take more ground. And this actually is starting to look like what I had predicted. Yo, I predicted this, right? That this world war situation could lead to Africa's ascension if the parties who are involved in oppressing and extracting from Africa end up finding themselves unable to militarily do it, just like it happened in World War II. I said this in one of my last videos. Y'all need to go back and watch it. I'm saying this again. When you look at the timing of when Africa's revolutions happened, it was post World War II. What happened in World War II? All the colonizers shot each other. They was empty. They had no other boats. They had to invest all the economics in rebuilding a Europe that had been shattered absolutely by the world wars. And had it not been for America and the American CIA keeping a footprint in Africa, you would have not even had the means by which Europe could go in and recolonize economically, even though they were thrown off politically, right? So now what's going to happen? I'm going to just lead us to y'all. What's going to happen if, because of this, and the civil unrest that we have here, that America's economy collapses and we end up with real fires that we got to put out here? What's going to happen to Africa, right? What's going to happen if this escalates into a situation where we get a hot war for real against China, a hot war for real against Russia? What's going to happen to Africa, right? And y'all not thinking about investing in the continent? You ain't thinking about getting in on the emerging markets like any smart investor would do? Dang politics aside, dang history aside, emerging markets is where the future is at. If you're not thinking about getting in at the ground level as an investor in the continent when world events might actually end up liberating the continent, as we see with this situation with the UAE and Iran, are you thinking like a smart investor? You know what I'm saying? Or does it just seem like it's too out of reach for you? I understand that that's the case. But either way, it just seems to me that the pattern could easily repeat itself. That if the world goes to war, we really just talking about the people who control the world, not the whole world itself. Africa could end up in a situation where it gets elevated. But that's just my thoughts on it. I'd love to see your thoughts, because here on the African Diaspora News Channel, we bring you the news that relates to the Black family world.
Really? I had my mic on. True peace, star. Yes. I think this was quite a good presentation. I'm not sure what this guy's name is, so whoever you are, wonderful, wonderful take. I like how he gave his own opinions, and also some facts. So we have UAE involved in, so that's the United Arab Emirates, he's saying. So they're funding a certain side of Sudan's war. So it's showing you how a conflict or a situation that arises in one area can affect another area. So it's gone in Sudan's favour, as in there's a military shift now that the supply chain has been. Thank you. The supply chain has been disrupted. So we have a great thing happening when something bad or something like a war is happening. A ripple effect, as they say. Like the sound, right? Reason. The vibrations. There's vibrations, sound vibrations. So, like we have sound vibrations, the sound of the universe. So, with vibrations, we have outcomes happening just by certain vibrations. So, I think this is a great presentation, as Tarkinu is in the house, and he said that that's a great presentation, and I must agree with him there. I must truly agree. He's also put 3 9s up. Wow. How about that? That's powerful there. 3 9s. Vibrations. There's another video I want to show you, so give me a second. I'll get that up for you.
paramilitary rapid support forces attacked the city of Al Fasher in the Darfur region. Since April 2023, a brutal power struggle between two rival generals has torn the country apart. Human rights groups call it genocide.
Now we are seeing body piles visible from space.
But this is not just a civil conflict. It's a proxy war fueled by external players and a thirst for profit.
Outside powers have made everything worse. In Sudan,
Around 12 million people have now been forced from their homes. The country also faces a man-made famine, one of decades.
Sudan is the world's largest humanitarian crisis, the world's largest hunger crisis, the world's largest displacement crisis, and the world's largest protection crisis.
This is the story of a nation torn apart for profit and power at an enormous human cost. April 2023. After 2 decades of civil war, the situation escalates. On one side is General al-Burhan, the leader of the official Sudanese Armed Forces, or SAF. On the other side is his former deputy, General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, also known as Hemeti. He leads the Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or RSF. But who is this paramilitary force? The RSF originated as the Janjaweed. These Arab and Arab-speaking militias were SAF allies during the war in Darfur in the early 2000s. Hundreds of thousands of Darfuris from non-Arab communities were killed, who are now facing that same terror all over again. Burhan and Hemeti also joined forces in 2019 to oust dictator Omar al-Bashir. Protesters filled the streets demanding civilian rule, securing a short-lived power-sharing deal. But in 2021, the two generals launched yet another coup.
they toppled the civilian government that had been put in place and seized full control. But then this partnership that they had descended into a row when the head of the army wanted Hemeti to roll his forces into the army, and he didn't want to do that. Both of them wanted to be the ruler of Sudan.
There's a sort of Cain and Abel story here. They've been fighting fisted glove against the people of Darfur for decades before they turned on each other.
I will be going back to the comments. There was a comment here. Seeing bodies from space is wicked. It's very poetic, I must add. Very poetic. Seems as if I'm not the only one that has been awoken now. Seems Tar is fully awake. Fully awake. Must be. So we have a visual kind of thing here, vibration he sent me. So what I can kind of visualize. So now we're taking a view from space, looking in, of bodies. Yes, this must be horrendous. It's a horrendous kind of situation what Tar has mentioned. Now, and he's also the man is providing for his family. It's very important. And he is woke. He's confirming. It's confirming. Let's go back to your comment. So let's delve a little bit more into this comment because it's poetic. It's poetic and timing is something. What made my great brother here say such a thing? That has caused me to stop the video. Also, there was a mention of Cain and Abel. I don't know if you heard that, sir. Yes. Seems to be a battle of Cain and Abel in Sudan. So yeah, seeing such activities, it must be heartbreaking, you know, to be seeing such activities being activities occurring, you know, the activities that are occurring, this death, this obsession with death, whether it be in the religious side, which I really tend to not speak about, whether it be in the political, whether it be in Epstein's demise, which I don't think is is possible for me. I think he's still alive. But even though you may be alive, you may be in a death state. Oh, okay. We're getting some more messages here coming in. Vibrations. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. I'll have a look first before I put them up. Eh? Right. So, yes, 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 yes. I did see this. I did see this. These images. Um, Coming up to the half an hour mark. Okay, let's keep going. Yes, from Google. From Google. So we have satellites positioned in space, mirroring what's going on the ocean planet. Currently reading Landslide book. I'm currently reading Landslide. I'm gonna get the other ones in a minute. 1 second. I'm gonna get back to this. Come in to get the books. And I also have a short history of Islamic thought. I have Oceans, Earth's Last Wilderness by Colin Butfield and David Attenborough. The Nazi Mind by Lawrence Rees, and Pops, A Life of Louis Armstrong. So these are the books I'm currently reading. So we're looking at reflections, vibrations, being sent all the way across the pond, the pond to me here. So let's have a look at what's been said. So we have Sudanese war bodies can be seen from space, and we're looking at a plus 10 years. So this is plus, yeah. So this is a long time to be in conflict, huh? About 10 years, right? So what's happening is we have an identification, evidence. My great word, evidence, you see. We may have opinions. It's very difficult to have your evidence. Things change. And going back to like my book here, with the oceans. So we're talking about we're gonna go down in the depths. And it's funny you mentioned evidence and research and identifying evidence of mass atrocities in Sudan. Right? So you see where patches of earth are visible from space. And so this is evidence, right? Like a forensic. I did have another book about forensics, but I took it back to the library. I said, no, I'm not into that one. But what I did discover was about a guy was cave hunting, went through various stages of his life, and he was a forensic. So we're talking about evidence, excuse me. So back to the oceans, we have the whale falls to the bottom of the ocean, and we're now having maps of the ocean floor, which should be, they may have the mapping of the ocean floor by 2030. And so we're seeing how the whale is on the seabed, and various creatures come out to, come out. Species that we don't know, we have no idea. And we're talking about, could be in the millions of different species along the ocean floor. And remember, it's very dark down there. So that's evidence. And the only way to support your evidence is by having images, and also what is more important is the eyewitness. So we have proof here of, we're gonna go into this, the pictures, right? So I may add that this comment is true, and in fact, I'm going to prove that it's true, which we like to do. We like to prove what's being said is true. And we have a Tar, and Tar is woke and providing for his family. Still the vibration he sent now. So we have visual proof that atrocities are happening in Sudan. And we have a company called Google, which is... So are we saying this is a Google satellite? Yes, Google must have satellites. They must have satellites up there. Right? They must have satellites. And so we have... The word is consistent. Bodies and what is the other word for hemoglobin? Hemoglobin for blood. So visible. Now the Guardian plus 2L fascia massacres, and this happened in October, November. So when we're in our winter period, coming up to the festivities of what I said, the Christian time. Huh? So dead of winter, October, November 2025. Do you remember what you was doing in October, November? What was I doing? I'll have to get back. I can't remember what I was doing. October. What was going on in October? Last year was very busy. It was a very busy year. I think October, November, something actually happened. I'm going to check that out as well. October, November, huh? 2025. So the Yale Humanitarian Research Lab and other investigators identified dozens. And I really like, is it this? Oh, Yale. Also, I thought it was the Smithsonian's. I quite enjoy Smithsonian's now and again. So yeah, we have this is a university of America, Yale. I don't think Trump went to Yale. Also, I think Jeffrey Epstein was a dropout as well. But back to this story. So we also have, yes, light-coloured clusters and reddish discoloration in El fascia. So again, the evidence can be seen and it's recorded. It's recorded, you see. So we can have proof when it comes to time to, if there does come a time where we can have some sort of accountability from what happened. So we're having mass atrocities in Sudan, visible from space. Visible from space. Okay, so we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that. And I'd like to appreciate that message here. And it is true. Okay, let's see something quickly. Sudan, El Fascia, El Fascia massacre, visible from space. Aha. So we have something here. Something here. So we have the. Is this sharing? There seems to be a bit of a delay here. I think it is sharing. Here we are. So we have satellite imagery has captured the bloody sands of El Fascia, revealing the extent of the violence and destruction in the region. Images shows clusters of dark objects that are consistent with human bodies, indicating the mass atrocities committed by the RCF. This is the Rapid Support Forces, and also red discoloration on the ground. And so we have blood-soaked earth. So going back to that comment, what the lady said about Cain and Abel. There is a part, I'm sure, in the Bible. I'm not very well reversed on the Bible. But when Cain and Abel had their altercation, I think the blood from is it Abel died? I can't remember which one. Yeah, Abel. The blood from Abel went onto the earth, and I think the earth cried. The earth cried. So we can it's we're saying the reddish discoloration on the ground is thought to be blood-soaked earth or signs of mass casualties, further supporting the evidence of systematic ethnic cleansing, and summary executions. And this is described as a horror show and a crime scene. So there's an urgent need for international intervention and humanitarian aid to address a dire situation faced by the displaced population. Right? So we also have here, let's see the images of this. We have a report here. I think is that from the Middle East Eye. Now, the Middle East Eye, it doesn't seem to get much views. I'm not sure why. Okay, so let's see. Let's see what we've got. The Telegraph here. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to have access to this. I'm not sure we're going to have access to this page. All right. So I'd like also to again, my brother there for bringing up this vibration. Now let's have a look at this disaster scene. Disaster! Look at this is a disaster. Right. So visual inspections. So we have a quite remote place here. Right? A remote place. A desert area. I'm not sure if this is settlements. So this would be people's houses. It seems what I can see here in the image here is settlements, right? But there's a contrast to this image. We can see clear settlements on the right hand side. We can even see from the far right, we can see the desert patches. Yeah? We can see the color of the is that the desert floor may we say? And we now can see the very visible discoloration. Okay? The discoloration of the ground. So you can see from the right hand side, you can see a lighter shade of a brownish is it humber? Humber? Not sure if it's humber. It's like a brown, an orange, yellows and reds. The yellow and the red. Yeah? With a touch of black maybe to bring out the darkness. So we have a visual inspection here. Right, so we could kind of see some what is settlements on the right hand side. And then as we move over to the left hand side, we can see what appears to be these settlements have been burnt. There's been some destruction here. It's clear to be seen here. There is these black dots that are appearing quite close within the non-discolored parts. All right, there is some on this side, on the right hand side. But visibly, it's very clear we can see discoloration on the right hand side here. Right, and we have these really huge this is like right where the earth has been moved. Okay, so earth has been taken out and refilled. And refilled with what? Because this is what is being presumed to be bodies that have been now put inside. So we're talking about summary executions, and we're going to see by the video how that kind of pans out in Sudan. It would basically, this is a rural agricultural site, so large civilians, civilian population, unarmed. We're talking about people that are unarmed. Unarmed people will be taken out of their settlements, taken over to another area, lined up in front of mass dug holes, executed, put inside the holes, and then the earth has been dug up. But also, what they do, they has been done in the past in Somalia. They gather the the residents of the community to watch what is happening. To watch. And may I add, if anyone sheds a tear, they will also be joined into the mass grave, what we're seeing here. Yeah, the mass grave. Like the whale falls down to the bottom of the seabed. Here we have, on the planet, we're having our own graveyard and our own visible evidence, satellite imagery revealing signs of the rapid support forces raising grounds in Sudan. Rural agricultural communities being horrifically slaughtered and not even given a proper burial. So we're talking about mass graves here. And where they're remote, or thinking that they're remote and maybe they could get away with such actions, it's not possible. It's not possible because now we've got satellite imagery that shows evidence of this slaughtering. Back to the ground.
Khartoum became the first battleground between the two now rivals in April 2020. Soon after, clashes between and army forces erupted across the country. The campaign then shifted back to its brutal origins in Darfur. The strategic and symbolic target was Al-Fasher, the last major city outside of RSF control in the region, where in October 2025, a terrifying siege was about to begin.
We warned the UN Security Council that this was going to happen 2.5 years ago. We told them that we were going to see a siege of Al-Fasher and the slaughter if Al-Fasher fell, and now we are seeing body piles visible from space. Al-Fasher has been surrounded by what we call a kill box. They've built an earthen wall to trap the people inside that completed just in the past few weeks. And as that wall completed, we knew the end was near. There were pickup trucks with guns mounted on the back, blocking alleys and side streets. Simultaneous to that, we see objects consistent with bodies appear. In all of these locations, none of these objects were visible 24 hours before. In some of the cases, we'll see a discoloration. The blood discolorations we're talking about are about half a meter and immediately appear around a cluster of objects consistent with human bodies. We received word from the ground that 1,200 people have been killed in the first 24 hours. By nightfall, it was 10,000. By Tuesday, we couldn't reach those people anymore, and we haven't heard from them again.
RSF-linked accounts have shared footage on social media that appears to document their own atrocities. One verified video filmed from the berm around Al-Fasher shows dozens of bodies in the trench below. The RSF have denied targeting civilians, blaming rogue actors instead.
لجنة التحقيق تبدأ فوراً في تحقيق ومحاسبة أي جندي أو أي ضابط ارتكب جرم أو تجاوز حدوده في حق أي إنسان.
Fasher, the memory massacres still raw.
دول 50 نفر 60 نفر في الشارع واحد 10 نفر 20 نفر طول تك 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 تك
قتلوا ساكن وهربوا العربات ودبوا الناس
يعني كل شيء في البشر ده احنا شفناه اي حاجه شيء في الحياه ده شفناه.
And for those who did escape, the nightmare hasn't ended.
Thousands of people have made it out of the city, although 300,000 are thought to remain behind. But refugee camps are not exactly places of safety in Sudan because these too have been targeted in the past by the RSF.
Sudan is the world's largest displacement crisis, with around 12 million people uprooted inside and outside the country.
This is a humanitarian catastrophe.
But this is not an accident. It is a strategy.
This war in Sudan is a war against civilians. It's against civicness, it's against civil. It is very much a war fixing and entrenching a military state. And because a whole gamut of different military tactics being used, from the more medieval tactics of siege, starvation is a weapon of war, rape is a weapon of war, the inducement of famine.
A proxy war for rival nations and their own. Evidence is mounting linking the RSF's firepower to the UAE, though the Emiratis deny it. But they aren't alone. Libya provides the RSF with vital supply routes into Darfur. Saudi Arabia and Egypt back the SAF, which also receives drones from Iran and Turkey. Foreign, including Colombians, and in the past Russia's Wagner Group, have allegedly been spotted in the fight. And there are more countries which facilitate both sides. Sudan's location makes it strategically valuable. It borders 7 countries and has a long coastline along the Red Sea. But there is another, more lucrative reason why foreign players are interested in Sudan: gold. Sudan is Africa's 3rd largest gold producer after South Africa and Ghana.
Gold is the main commodity that everyone's trying to get their hands on, including these outside players.
the UAE has the largest gold markets in the world. And there's been some reporting recently that shows that the UAE has been getting a large proportion of the gold that it has from Sudan. I think we can safely conclude that the gold is driving a lot of the weapons sales that we're seeing.
With no incentive to stop, peace feels further away than ever. Since the fall of al-Fasher, the RSF have seized more territory, including a key oil field. In November, a humanitarian truce collapsed within a week. Shortly after, the US stepped in to broker another deal.
His Majesty would like me to do something very powerful having to do with Sudan. We're going to start working in Sudan.
واستجابة للجهود الدولية المبذولة وعلى رأسها مبادرة فخامة الرئيس الأمريكي دونالد ترامب ومساعي الدول الرباعية والاتحاد الأفريقي والإيجاد نعلن الآتي: أولاً إعلان هدنة إنسانية تشمل وقف الأعمال العدائية لمدة 3 أشهر.
But after years of failed agreements, hope is running low.
It's a total red herring. The RSF has effectively figured out how to play the international community that will agree to a truce, will always agree to attend mediation and talks so that it's seen as the less belligerent party. And by extension, the Sudanese armed forces, which never really knows how to help itself, and has always pushed back against any talks and any mediations, looks like the much more belligerent party.
20 years ago, we had the Save Darfur movement. There were students in the streets, there were lawn signs, there were bracelets, there were celebrities, there were people getting arrested from the Sudanese embassy. How could we mobilize then, and why were we silent now?
This is a multi-tier conflict, and unless you can have a multi-tier political and ceasefire process, it's just simply not going to work.
We got to get back on the horse, and that horse is international law and protection of civilians. I'm going to sound like Churchill. The only thing worse is the alternative.
So yes, a return back to international law. So we need a return back to international law, right? So we're having denial from UAE of their role in this conflict. But we have evidence of atrocities. We also have evidence of a lack of vocal response by we all must bear responsibility for that. If we're going to have accountability on one side, why not have it on both? So there's a lack of talking about this situation. We can see where some people may want this to be hidden, or would rather speak about Iran or Ukraine, or even Pakistan and Afghanistan. So there is something that Sudan has to offer. Strategic location, we can see it's strategically located on the mainland of Africa. Let's go back to Sudan's map. So we have the map of Sudan. I mean, this is Lower Egypt, isn't it? This is Lower Egypt, the Sudanese. This is Lower Egypt, Khartoum, yeah, the area Khartoum. We also have the small enclave of Eritrea there, Asmara clearly being seen there. We have Djibouti there, and we have Addis Ababa, the capital of Ethiopia. We have Chad. Chad. Zoom out a little bit here. I'm failing to see. Oh, 1 second. Let's get rid of this. Well, we're getting a full view. So we have South Sudan. So the country's been split into two. Then we have Chad. You've got your. So we'll have a quite an important part, a location here. Also a long beachfront. So ports along the Red Sea, opposite Saudi Arabia. So it's very difficult for them to say they're not going to be involved, because obviously that is it's a neighboring country. The only thing that's separating Saudi Arabia and Sudan is a mere just a small ocean. I say small as in comparison to others. So it's a sea as well, so it's not quite an ocean. So you have the Red Sea, right? So obviously they're going to have they're going to be looking at areas in close proximity, right? Neighboring countries, right? You're going to have some interest in what's going on there. And with the dwindling oil that is happening in the Middle East, Venezuela being one of the largest holders of reserves of oil. So we have Sudan opposite. Also, we have large reserves of gold. Sudan being the fourth holders of reserves of gold in Africa. You also have a large population, civilian population, that seems to be tied with agriculture. Right? So people have a ancient way of living, right? They're more into agriculture. So quite an easy population to be displaced by a military force. A military force also being so remote, in certain remote areas, atrocities can be easily conducted. Which has happened in Al Fasher. So it's very difficult for Saudi Arabia to have have any non-involvement with what's going on in Sudan. Whatever's happening in Sudan matters a fair bit to Saudi Arabia on a national security level. And also, well, throwing in gold reserves, which gold has gone up in price now. Exorbitant prices. Gold. You can also take the gold, and you also got a large agricultural civilization, people that more subside in agriculture. So with you have less of a civilian uprising that could happen, right? Plus close proximity to Saudi Arabia, it could be a vessel, a vessel for Saudi Arabia expansion into Africa, and then very hard to be because of the close proximity. It's very difficult for other countries to have such an impact as Saudi Arabia can because of the close proximity. Why not just use your resources in some other area, right? Okay, in some other area. We're going to go back to some other area now, right? Some other area where my cursor is the Sahel. I want to check out the Sahel now. So there you have the current situation in Sudan. So that is saddening, really sad. Um, as much as we say things are doing well in certain parts of Africa, for me, we're failing on so many levels because where we may have some parts doing well, you know, these atrocities that are happening in Sudan. It's just a shame, It's just a shame, right? So we've got Sudan. So we have North Darfur. So this is another place we had conflict in North Darfur. Right? You've got your northern state. So Khartoum seems to be in a different country, Khartoum, isn't it? Sorry, Khartoum is in Ethiopia. Yeah, is it? Yeah. Yeah. Khartoum is just on the border, so it may have been in Sudan. And that is the Nile, yeah? The Nile running through. So even though it's dry, it has a water source as well. So that is another very a thing that's going well. I mean, when you're drilling for gold, you need huge amounts of water for mining. All right. So we can see it's very dry. You have your agricultural though. You have your greens. So you've got Central Darfur there, and we have the area Alpha Shire here, right, where they have the clear signs of a war crime here. For sure. This water here as well. I'm not sure if that's water. I can see it. Maybe. Let's see if we can see anything. Aha. It's very densely populated. Very densely populated. Alpha Shire. Right. Can't quite see what area that was. It did look more. It was agricultural part, wasn't it? Right. So it's quite a big city. Big settlement. Alpha Shire. Zoom out a bit. So where they said it happened, it was more out of town. It wasn't right in the city. But we can see why this is very important to hold this position here. So we have the agricultural areas here. Alassane, Kamdi, Kurga. Right. Dalil. Right. Where did it happen again? Let me see. Oh, let's see if we can get that. So this is the capital of North Darfur State. Yeah, so it's North Darfur. North Darfur. Al Fashir or Al Fasha. So we're talking about North Darfur. Right, let's zoom in a bit more. So have a good look at it. Not quite sure exactly where this happened. It says north, right? So we had an offensive. So they made a corridor and they starved them out of. They starved them, locked off basic amenities, rendering the people useless, as in fighting back, right? That's another war crime there. Right, war crime. So we have. So there's no visible pattern of life. You got your thermal scarring. So we see the vegetation has grown back, right? So it's been covered up now, right? Who not, how many places has this happened? How many times has this happened, where areas have just been used for the for summary executions, and then it, it, the vegetation grows over, and you know that's it. Unless you had evidence of it being burnt in the first place, you would never know. You would never know. Tragic scenes here. Right, tragic. And they're saying RCF is responsible. And we have, this is from the Yale researchers, attacking of food supplies in the run up. And this will be used in future prosecutions at the International Criminal Court. And this needs to happen. Right, these poor people. I mean, have your loved ones just dumped altogether. people deserve a lot more in this day and age. You know, we're not talking about the centuries before. This is happening now, right? We have people that are committing these crimes on their own people with impunity, with impunity, aided by other countries. The unspoken war, the unspoken war in Iran. So let's visit the Sahel next. We're going to visit the Sahel. It's currently 1810. It's rush hour. The pigeons are sitting in the tree here. Right, they're snuggling up. It's very cool. It's cool in London. A slight breeze, and I can see the first blooms of flowers coming out of the trees, which is a good sign. So is spring here? I think spring is here. I can see, yes, and the cherry blossom tree has exploded with ferocity on my street. It's amazing. I love that tree, the cherry blossom. So we'll leave that here, and we'll keep you informed of this situation. JTV out, out, out for now, and we'll be back very shortly. We'll be back shortly. Yeah? Right.